Hey everybody, welcome to John D Podcast. I'm your host, John D. Miller. Welcome to episode number 52, everybody. Number 52, numero 52 in the old Espanol language. That's right. 808 going on 809 days as I begin to record this. No booze, no booze, no booze. What's up with you guys? How you been? I actually started to record this, a week ago. Yeah. It was about like 801, 802. I just passed 800 days. Yeah, I got past 800 days. Honestly, didn't really think much about it. I actually got to a milestone in the not boozing, and I didn't really think about it. Like I didn't even think, like 798. I was, wow. I was like, yeah, 800 days, man. Huh. Even my lovely wife Liz was like, really? You didn't say anything. You didn't put anything on Facebook. I said, I think people are maybe getting tired of me talking about it. I don't know. I wrote a new joke the other day. I was telling Liz about it. I felt like maybe when I first quit drinking, I was just telling everyone, and I wasn't trying to be preachy, but sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I've been drinking, 400 days. I've been drinking 400 days, and then the person was like, that's great. I was just saying, did you want cheese on that? So yeah, I don't want to be preachy, and I don't want to be bugging people about it, I guess is what I'm saying. So, but yeah, came and went, did it, moving on. But Thursday, I wanted to record, and I actually had the real, like I really wanted to do it. I was going to maybe put it out on Friday, right? But if, assuming I could get editing and everything done, and there was Liz and I were sitting in the living room like 12:30. I was supposed to have an interview with somebody. And I got an email 12:05. Hey, can't do it. Got a sick kid. Say, hey, totally know what that's about. Let me know. We can reschedule. Came upstairs, was talking to Liz, and then we heard this crashing sound. And Liz jumped up. She looked out the window of the storm door. She's like, I can see the power lines are moving. And I went out front, and you could just see, and there was the whole top of one of the poles, the power poles, the whole structure, I guess you would call it, the whole structure that goes across the top there that holds all the wires was in the middle of the road. And I'm walking across and I'm calling 911, and which I thought was funny because I called 911. I told her the address, and she said, okay, is it arcing or is it sparking? And I said, no, but that's a great name of a podcast. And then I didn't really, but arcing and sparking. Maybe that's what I should call it. No, that would be about, electricians would have that, arcing and sparking. But yeah, she was like, okay, well, I'll put in a call for service. I'm like, what does that mean? I've never heard a 911 operator say that. This is a traveled 2-lane road, right? Liz and I are standing in the front yard of the house next door, because that's actually where it was. But the person who lives there wasn't home, and so but this woman pulled up. The whole top of this pole is laying in the middle of the road. She goes, a pole down? I said, yeah. She said, anybody hurt? I said, I don't know. I don't think so. She goes, oh, do you see what happened? I said, no. I don't know. I don't know anything about her. Maybe she was a nurse. Maybe she was just helping, making sure like nobody was hurt. Like, I don't know. But it just that the opening question was a little circumspect. Is what my point was. Anyways, what's going on? I'm gonna try to get as much of this done in my little session here this evening. But I don't know how much I will, because I have to go and get ready at some point and get some rest. I have another show tomorrow night. I'm gonna be at Sandman Comedy Club in downtown Richmond. By the time you hear this, it'll probably already be done already. But I did go to, it's an open mic. It's just going and hanging out, doing a little small set, probably 5 minutes. I don't know, which is fine. I wouldn't mind doing something longer, but hey, that's what I got to do. I got to get back into the system. But I did go and do an open mic 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, I did Funktastic Me's, that meadery. Did I tell you about that one before? I think I did. Did that back a couple weeks ago. That was pretty cool, man. That was a good thing. I really felt, that was one of the first times since I've been doing stand-up again. I really felt it. I felt it. Anybody who's ever done comedy, and I'm sorry to say, but being good at it, You know what I'm talking about. This is when you have a crowd in the palm of your hands and you're just walking them right through the everything and they just go right along with it. It's so good. It's so good. And I felt that for 4 of the 6 minutes I did. 6 minutes, I could do that easy. But I'm going back to Sandman, where last time I was there, it was actually my first time on stage in years. So we'll see how the return goes. But I had a friend of mine recently, he was like, hey man, it's one of my friends that I met online. It's not what it sounds. I know I say that. No, it's one of my friends in my recovery group, Brian. He said I could say his name like that. Brian was asking me about stand-up. And one of the things he was asking me about, I was sharing in the group. Don't worry, it's not a 12-step thing. It's just to share stuff. It's just a support. But I was sharing in the group about getting out and doing comedy and about the open mic. And he was saying, what is that open mic for a comic? You know, what is it in the viewpoint, I guess, or the eyes of a comic? But I thought, yeah, what a good question that is. And I think I've actually talked about open mics a little bit before in the past, back when Josh from Utah was emailing me, which I haven't heard from that guy in a long time. I hope he's doing well. So an open mic for a comedian is, okay, basically what happens with an open mic is a comedian shows up, and in exchange for you having a crowd for him to stand in front of, he comes and does jokes for free. And sometimes comics, me, myself included, have definitely not deserved to be paid for telling jokes that we were telling. It happens, right? Even now. I mean, yes, there are times I can pull out some of the old stuff, but some of my new stuff I'm trying to work on, I don't deserve to get paid for that. Point being. So in exchange for that, he comes and he does his thing for free, and you provide him or her or them or they or whoever with an audience for them to stand in front of and ply their wares. Now, because that's the thing, a comedian is never going to be a comedian standing in his own bathroom, living room, talking to his cat, his dog, his plant, right? His weed plant, saying, just grow faster. Just grow faster. They say talk to plants. I scream at mine. So the point is that, but that's what they do. No comic's going to get better just being in their house doing nothing. They have to have an audience, and they have to have somewhere they can start. That's where a lot of comics who start out go. And it's sort of a different thing for them because comics, you got to pay attention to your order and stuff like that. What you're doing, you got 5-6 minutes a lot of times. But it's good because you're like, look, I just got to prepare this one little 5 thing, right? Got to be tight. And that's what teaches a comic how to do it. Even somebody who is a seasoned pro will go and do an open mic. Because not only that, because open mics are awesome in the sense that you get a mix. You get a real mix of people. Some people you can see, hey, they're going to be doing comedy. They got something. They got the mojo. And then, there are some people who they might do it just as a hobby. They want to try it. And then what did he ask me? He said, what would you want an audience member to know who was going to an open mic as opposed to a paid show? Okay, great question. That would be basically, I would want that audience member to know that you're at an open mic. You're going to see all kinds of stuff. There you have our great open mics out there. There was one I started at back at Wiseacres Comedy Club in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. That was an awesome open mic. People would come to watch the open mic every week. It was a spot. It was like the highlight of the week for me at one point, was going to this open mic. My advancement in comedy was not as much, but I still love the open mic. Even when my advancement in comedy had gotten to the point where I was working the road quite a bit, I still enjoyed going to an open mic. So I would just tell an audience member, if you're going to an open mic, know that you are going to see a variety of stuff, material, talent level, topics. Just be prepared. Just be prepared because, hey, some are more polished, some are not. And this is the other thing I would remember is you might see a comic who, if you saw his regular trained stuff, right, and then you're like, wow, that guy's awesome. But then you see him, you go up and you see him bomb for like 5-6 minutes. I guarantee you're working on new stuff. New stuff is generally very hard to work out, but that's why you do it at an open mic, because you don't deserve to get paid for it. The stuff you do get paid for as a comedian is stuff you've worked on for a long time. When you see a comedian and they have just the right tone, just the right intonation, just the right spot, just the right timing, that's all been worked on. It very, very rarely ever just falls out of somebody's head. Now, I have had those. they were usually when I was drinking. So that's one of the hard parts of me trying to write comedy, because I don't have any booze in my system. Now, I even had a guy one time, he told me, he said, hey, since you quit drinking, it's not as funny. I said, I know. And you're going to get all kinds of audience members at open mics. That's the other thing. So but you might have 5 people. Might have 5 people there, but you know what? You go up and you do it because you're talking to somebody else that is not a pet or, not your mom. Oh, that's hilarious. No. Right? You need to get out in front of people who don't know you. This is the other thing I want audience members to know. I guess I kind of turned this around, Brian. Sorry. But I guess, I explained what a comic thinks. We just want to go in there and just get laughs. And one of the most frustrating things to a comic is when somebody goes, oh, an open mic. And then you go up there doing things like, you ain't no Chris Rock. I had somebody yell at me one time. No, I'm a white bearded dude, balding bearded white guy. No, I'm not Chris Rock. I'm bigger than that guy. I've literally stood next to that dude. I am a taller, larger person than him. Just in frame. No insult to him. He's awesome. But I'm just saying, in stature, I got him beat. Comedy, I could never touch him. So I'm not saying that. Now, that's the thing. I talk about seasoned pro comics. I'll tell you a story about Chris Rock one time. This is a cool story. When I lived in D.C., DC Improv was very cool about comics coming in and hanging out. We called it as comics putting in FaceTime, where, you kind of got to get in front of the club booker, who at the time was named John X. You had to go down and get some FaceTime. You had to let him see you to be there. But it was cool because we would go see people. And I've talked about it before. It was Hedberg, Schimmel, Eddie Gosling. I remember one time I got to see him live. It was just solid. Of course, you worked at times there. But I remember one time I went down to see Hedberg, and he just finished his set, like his headlining set. Like Hedberg had just finished his headlining set, and it was amazing. And it was Hedberg. He's a god. And then the host, who I knew, a guy named Mike Payne, Hedberg goes off, and Mike comes to the mic and says, well, folks, that would usually be the end of the show. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Rock. And everybody in the audience was like, no, come on, really? And Chris Rock walked right out from behind the curtain, because they had a little side thing at the Improv back then. He walked right out. The place went fucking nuts. Absolutely crazy. He did 10, 15. It wasn't much. He was in town. I believe it was Head of State was the name of the movie. Him and Bernie Mac, rest his soul. Amazing comic. Yeah, and he was there. You could tell Chris Rock was working out stuff. You could tell. He had some new stuff in there I'd never heard him say before. He doesn't go to an open mic. He's in town filming a movie. He's like, hey, I want to work on some stuff, do a set. He calls the Improv, which is a fantastic club. I haven't been there in a long time, so I don't know. But it was a great club at the time. It was the place to be in the D.C. area if you were a working comic. And so, but he calls that place and says, hey, I want to come in. And they go, like, who's headline? Oh, it's Hedberg. Oh, awesome. Okay, yeah. Can I do time after him? And he did, and he could. And so, we just want people going to sit there and be entertained by whatever happens to be spilling out of our heads at the time. That's, as comics, that's pretty much what we want. Open, copacetic to just listening to whatever, and don't be expecting something that you're not even paying for. Most open mics are free for audience members to get into. It's not my problem you paid $8 for Old Crow whiskey. That's not my problem, man. And don't get me wrong, they charge too much, but that's the way it works, and I don't have control over it. So everyone wants to have a good time. They know why they're there. They know what they're going to see. That's all. That's what we want. And the person I give really a lot of credit to, honestly, is the person who runs the open mic. That is the hardest job in the fucking world. Unless they're not, maybe not the bartender. Okay, I take that. If the bartender's busy getting slammed, they're in the weeds. Okay, they have a harder job. But the hardest job in the room as a comic, for sure, is the host of the open mic, because you got to be up and down, up and down. And as a comic, that is the hardest job, because if the audience starts to fade off because there's somebody goes up there and bombs for 5 or 6 minutes, well, then you got to come up there, tell a couple of jokes, maybe lift them back up, right? Keep the show rolling. You got to make announcements. Sometimes that's always fun. Hey, don't forget, we have half price appetizers after 10 if you'd like to The extra sour cream is extra. Don't ask for extra sour cream unless you want to pay for it. Oh, and that also goes for ranch. Okay. On cheese fries. Okay. Anyways, your next comic. Yeah. But yeah, that's what comics want in an open mic. And, there is a factor there, I think, that when people pay for a show, they're more open to laughing. I do feel like comics, like audience members, when they pay to get into a comedy club, I do feel like they tend to be more receptive to what you might be talking about, because there are times that, but don't get me wrong. I've been at a paid show where people paid $25 to get in, and not me. I'm not talking about me. I've seen but just comics. I mean, I'm talking about a show I didn't even perform on. I was just there hanging out. $25 for the audience to get in, and they hardly laughed at anyone. But that's the way it works. So I just know as a comic, we're going there, taking our own time. A lot of times we spend money when we're there just to help support the business. We bring friends. Some people do bring friends. I don't invite my friends and family to see me at open mics, especially when I'm working out and trying to come back from semi-retirement or retirement, really. I'm not going to do that. I was like, yeah, you want to come see me? You come see me when I'm getting paid 20, 25, something like that. At least a 15. Not even a 10, a 15. That's when I let you come out, see me, ply my wares, talk about being on steroids or even some of my old stuff, right? So, a good question. And he just said, hey, why don't you talk about this? And I said, I'll do that because he's a cool dude. So, what's up, Brian? All right. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? That took way longer than I thought it was. I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and take a break, huh? What do we say? What do we say there, people? I'm trying to keep a little more lighthearted of an episode. Trust me, I am looking at notes of just all kinds of stuff that is upsetting, and I just don't know if I want to talk about it. So I think I'm going to leave it with that, right? We're going to take a break. Hopefully you laughed through it. I hope it was interesting at some point to some of you. Which, by the way, make sure you follow me on Twitter, John D Comedy, John D Podcast, John D Podcast Facebook, John D Podcom on Instagram. And actually, if you're on YouTube, John D Podcom on YouTube. It's just got last episode on there. That's it. But you can listen to it on YouTube. I don't know why people do that. I mean, it's YouTube. Why would you not just put your earbuds in and walk around? But you know what? I'm not judging. And that's what the crazy kids are telling me these days. Get yourself on YouTube. So that's what I did. That's a brand new channel. I had some other stuff with the stand-up on there. I'm going to try to move it over. I'm learning as I go, literally. After the break, we're going to be talking about NHL Playoffs. They have been pretty amazing. Of course, Mandalorian. I'm going to talk about Beavis and Butthead, one of my all-time favorite shows. And then we'll see where it ends from that. Okay? All right, stick around. More John D Podcast right after this. When I quit booze for good, one thing I learned was to always keep your palate entertained. And one of my new favorite ways to make it happen is BlendJet 2. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even an NA margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. With over 30 plus colors and patterns to choose from, there's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. And be sure to use the promo code JohnDPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with BlendJet 2 Portable Blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code JohnDPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever. BlendJet 2. And welcome back to part 2 of episode 52 of John D Podcast. I'm your host, John D Miller. How was your break, everybody? Thanks again to BlendJet, our awesome sponsor, BlendJet. John D Pod 12 at checkout for 12% off and free shipping. Thank you to them. And then, of course, whatever other sponsor they got put in there because that's just kind of the system I'm working on right now. Okay. Thanks to them, whoever they were. Have you been enjoying the NHL playoffs, everybody? I know I have. I know that the Caps are out. I know it sucks, but I'm a hockey fan, and I do love hockey no matter what the situation is, and it has been absolutely amazing, to say the least, so far. First off, the upsets, right? And I know some of my listeners are like, yay, when I started talking about the hockey. I know some listeners out there are going, all right, I'll put up with this for 10 minutes. Please, stick around. One of the reasons why I love hockey in the playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not. Players in the NHL only get paid during the regular season. They don't get paid during the playoffs. Now, I don't know if they have bonuses or something like that. I don't know. But my point being is they don't get paid during the playoffs. They are playing for the chance to win the championship, to win the almighty grail that is the Stanley Cup. That is why they are out there. So I still enjoy this. I love the sport of hockey. And I got to say, these playoffs have been nothing short of some of the best I've ever seen. The first round, at least. I mean, you have the Avalanche and the Kraken series. Last year's Stanley Cup champions, speaking of winning the cup, right? Who were facing the second-year team, a wild card spot, no less. Yeah, they have that in hockey. They sort of did it a bit differently than Vegas did when they came into the league back in 2018. And they didn't quite get, I think on purpose, didn't really quite build the roster because they wanted to build it up. Because Vegas did have a slump there after they started off really good. They kind of went down a little bit. They're doing well now, don't get me wrong. They did win their series against Winnipeg. However, Seattle, second year. They got a lot of good young players and looking very good. They have former Capital Philip Grubauer in net, and he's playing phenomenal. He was always a 1B in Washington. He spent time in Colorado, and then he moved on to Seattle, and they're looking good. They're looking really good and pulling off this upset. I'm not going to say that I picked it. I did think it was possible, and sure enough, they managed to do it. But Colorado did have a lot of injuries as well as personnel they left. I mean, Darcy Kemper went to Washington. That was their goaltender last year, who... I like Darcy. I think when he's on, he's on. Kemper, he really is. When Kemper is on, he is an on goalie. Like he knows that he can be anywhere. And then, but at times, Dallas beat Minnesota. I knew that was going to happen first round. I just knew it. The Stars are too many guns. And unfortunately for Minnesota, they're always in that position. They just can't match the firepower that a lot of other teams have. They're a good team. They have a lot of guys that are coming up. Kaprizov is awesome. He's a great player. He's going to be great. Vegas, of course, beat Winnipeg. I saw that coming. I don't know how Winnipeg even got in the playoffs. How did they even get in? My people out in Winnipeg. Yeah, I got a couple. Yeah, I'm happy for your Jets getting there, but it must have been, you're just like, this is not going to happen. We've all had teams we root for. They get there and no. We'll enjoy a few more extra games of the season. Oilers and the Kings. The Kings, actually, I didn't really know how good they were this season. But the Oilers, Connor McDavid, they got Skinner in net, Draisaitl. In the East, of course, you have the unbelievable upset of the Boston Bruins by the Florida Panthers. I never doubted Florida had talent. They've been that way for, quite a while. Barkov and all these other people. They got Bobrovsky, who I've never thought was a $10 million a year goalie. Yet this year he's proven that he is, maybe. And maybe has a team in front of him. I don't know. But that was huge. And, I actually felt bad for Marchand. He was actually crying when the Bruins got lost in overtime. And he was hugging on Bergeron, this could be his last season. I felt bad for him for a second. And then I remembered everything else that Marchand's done over the course of time. And I thought, hey, good for you. You know what? He's a heck of a hockey player, and they all were. And that's what hockey is. That's what I love about the playoffs. It really is just about getting there. And then also you had the Rangers losing to the Devils, the highly touted, the bad New York Rangers with Kane, Tarasenko, all these guys they brought in. And Boston brought in people too. You can load them up. But it doesn't mean it's always going to work out. I was still surprised. Devils are a young team. They're fast. But they are having a hard time right now with the Hurricanes, who, of course, beat the Islanders in the first round. Saw that coming. That's just the style that the Hurricanes play was just going to eventually wear down the Islanders, and that's what they did. And that's what the Hurricanes are doing now to the Devils. So it's just, just frustrating them. And then Toronto beat Tampa. Thank God. I was very happy last year with Colorado winning the Cup because I was so tired of hearing about all these Tampa fans with, Brady being there and everything else. And then just adding on to that, they win the Cup, which, of course, the first of their back-to-backs, quote-unquote, was the Bubble Cup. I think the best thing to see would be a Toronto versus Edmonton final because there we know the Cup is going to go home to Canada. People are like, why? Somebody asked me, why are you rooting for a Canadian team? Because my Caps are out, and it would be an amazing, awesome story because a team from Canada hasn't won it in 30 years. 1993 was the last time. I mean, geez, Wayne Gretzky was still playing for the LA Kings when the Montreal Canadiens beat them to win the Cup. That's how long ago it was, people. And because I love the sport of hockey, I want to see the Cup go back to the place where it was born. Okay? Forgive me if I'm a fan of it that much. Yeah. I was telling somebody today, actually, they were talking about a project that I might be working on with them, and they were talking about hockey knowledge, and I said, well, and I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I have literally gone to Canada and been talking about hockey so much that people are like, okay, you know your stuff, chill out. It would be an awesome story. And especially with, my team being out, what do I give a send it home, send it to Canada. A lot of the teams I don't like are in the States anyways, right? So, why not? Toronto, they're obviously the longest drought of anybody, right? Yeah, enjoy the rest of the playoffs. It's going to be really interesting to see. We'll talk about it more. All right, let's move on. Of course, anything geeky or nerdy on Johnny Podcast is brought to you in part by MondoMonsterwear.com, shirts that feed the geeky mind. Thank you to them. Hello, shout out to Jordan over there. I finally got to watch it. I actually did not do it until last night. I watched the last episode of season 3 of Mandalorian. I had to. I was putting it off. I didn't want season 3 to be over, but I sat down last night and I watched it. And I got to say, I really liked this season. I thought it was very good, but here's my big complaint about it. To wait as long as we did, and I understand because of the pandemic, scheduling of people and stuff like that, that we didn't get a lot. We did not get a lot at all. And I was kind of mad about it. And some of this might be a spoiler, so you haven't seen it, but I'm not going to try to do too much. So for instance, one of the earlier on episodes was about, I don't know if you remember this, but remember the doctor? They had an episode with him. Like, they had characters coming in. They would just be there. Like, if you're going to have these offshoot episodes, Dave Filoni, who I love his work, everything from Clone Wars to Rebels, wasn't a huge fan of Resistance, but to each their own. It was just a little too cartoony. Just a little too Japanese anime for me, but that's okay. Hey, that, to each their own. But this season was not enough. You didn't give enough. The season finale was 41 minutes long, and several minutes of that playtime is credits. They had to show a couple minutes of previously. I get it. Overall, it was very good. Anybody who is a fan of Rebels might want to keep an eye out. If you haven't watched the 3rd season of Mandalorian, may want to keep an eye out for Zeb. Yeah, keep an eye out for Zeb. I'm not going to say when or where. Just keep an eye out for Zeb, okay? Which brings me to, this is the thing. So I was reading today about this, and somebody was saying that they heard, of course we all hear things about Star Wars, right? We always hear stuff, Star Wars and iPhones. Is the new iPhone 15 going to have a USB-C port? God, I hope so. These proprietary lightning ports suck. It's their data transfer speed. What's it, 160 times faster on a USB-C? Come on. So rumors about iPhones and Star Wars. Never believe any of them. Somebody was saying, well, I think we're going to see a lot of Mando in the Ahsoka series with Rosario Dawson. And, of course, it's going to be covering Ahsoka's pursuit of Grand Admiral Thrawn. And some people were saying, well, no, we're going to see a lot of Mando in that, just like we saw a lot of Mandalorian in Book of Boba Fett. Okay, I can handle that because that really did kind of stem the tide of going through season 2, not having a season 3 of Mandalorian right away, but still seeing him in Book of Boba Fett. Okay, I got it. I've loved this show since the first episode. I really did. I absolutely have. I really did. Ever since I saw the Mandalorian. And then I think what it was, I knew the way it was going to go and how much it was going to be good was when I saw they had Brian Posehn, Bert from Big Bang Theory, but he's a great stand-up comic and everything else. And they had him as one of the speeder drivers. I was like, all right, this show's going to be cool. It was nice. And we're going to have season 4, which I believe is going to be the last season of it. I wanted more. I wanted more just Mandalorian series. So, but it was good. I liked it overall. I talk about, because the Mandalorian. Well, and here's where we get to some spoilers. And if you want to jump ahead, I'll try to put something in the show notes. But I will. That'll say, hey, skip to here. But I may not. So if I forget, fuck it. Anyways, Dave Filoni has been a huge Mandalorian person since he was doing Clone Wars. He was always a fan of the whole mystique of it and the legend behind them in the stories. So, I wasn't surprised to see him do this and how he had the Mandalorians going back, reclaiming their world. So it was cool. It was really cool. And I liked what they did. I liked the episode that has Lizzo, had Jack Black in there. I thought that was pretty cool. I love Jack Black. Who doesn't like Jack Black? So I was happy with it. But like I said, I wish I could have had more. So good series. I'm looking forward to Ahsoka. That's going to be amazing because that's a great storyline in the Star Wars universe. So moving on. Yeah. So enjoy that. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Hopefully I didn't give anything away that you don't already know about at least, because like I said, people will go on 10 minutes after they watch an episode and go, what'd you think about so-and-so and doing this? Shut the fuck. Yeah. So anyways, something that doesn't have spoilers in it because, it doesn't really have that much of a serious plot to it, right? But I still love it. And of course, Mike Judge, when I heard about this was happening, Mike Judge has brought back Beavis and Butthead to Comedy Central, which I think is absolutely awesome. Can I do decent impressions of both characters? Yes. Am I going to? No. Which I really loved this show 20 years ago when it first came out. I loved it. I thought it was funny. And if anybody's ever sat there and said, oh, Beavis and Butthead, that show is so stupid. No, it's not. That show has a lot of smart to it. It's done by Mike Judge, who did Office Space, the movie, King of the Hill. Who doesn't love that show, right? And he's done a bunch of other things as well. And I've always been a fan of him and what he does. And I always love this show. Actually, I was with a friend of mine. I was 19 or 20 years old, something like that. And I was hanging out with a friend of mine. And he was like, hey, I think these girls might want to go hang out. And I said, no, Beavis and Butthead's on at 11:30. We got to get going. And yes, it is a dumb show, but it's meant to be dumb. But it's meant to be dumb with the hidden instances of smartness. And I just love it. I think it's awesome the way they're doing it. You got to watch it. Like Beavis and Butthead from the future, and they're talking about what happened. Has them when they're older, which I think is a lot of fun. No, I'm not going to do the voices for them. I did one time. I didn't even mean to do it. I wasn't even really thinking about it. The kid did something, and we were sitting at dinner, me and the fam, the wife and the kid, and we're sitting there, and the kid said something, and I just went, I am the great Cornholio. I need tippy for my bunghole. Right? I know. And Liz just looked at me and went, no. And I have never done it in front of my child ever again since. The look on her face, I'm not joking, the look on her face was, no. Like there's a certain thing that mothers do with their children, protective, whatever, that I think they do. I think you see it in the wild. I think you see it with lions and tigers. There's male lions are trying to be, messing around or something with the cub, and the lioness comes over and is like, I'm gonna fight you on this. But we all know lionesses run the pride anyways, so it's true. Do the hunting. Men just lay around with their big fucking hairy heads and neck. That sounds like me. All right, anyways. And like I said, I watch King of the Hill a lot, do my Bobby, which I watch it with the kid. He actually, I can do it. Dang it, Bobby, I told you. Dang it, Bobby, that sucked. But the kid actually has gotten pretty good at doing a Bobby impression. And he'll sit there and I'll be like, dang it, Bobby, that sucked. I'll go, well, I was doing the best I can. It's awesome. Check out Beavis and Butthead. I'm just blown away by it. It's pretty nice. I also want to say that I think it's a nice break that Comedy Central is taking from the 24/7 of South Park. Look, I love South Park. It's a great show. It's an absolutely great show. The fact that they tackle some of the social issues and put them in such perspectives as they do, I think is awesome. But at the same time, it's nice to be able to watch something at 3 o'clock in the morning when you just want to zone out for a little while after whatever you've been doing. And perhaps get to watch some other type of characters calling each other names and talking about kicking each other in the balls. Okay. It makes a difference. Okay? Okay. So I'm not going to lie to you. All right, I'm not going to lie to you, lovely listeners of John D Podcast. I actually took a little bit of a break. I'm not going to lie to you. I did. I actually went to the open mic, the one I was talking about earlier. Yeah. I was talking about that. Yeah, I went to it. Had a good time. I had a really good time, actually. And I think, if anything, what I want to say about it is that I have honestly, since I've been going back to these open mics, I have honestly and sincerely been impressed with the level of the comics that I've been seeing at these open mics. Now, I know they don't know me, and I know I was never some great comedian. Who am I to judge anybody? But I've been watching stand-up since I was a kid, okay? Since I was like 6 or 7 years old. Granted, my first favorite comedian was Bill Cosby. Nobody knew about him back then. I had all of his albums. Over time, I've studied a lot of the greats, and I still, to this day, I still like to partake of a nice stand-up set. So I took a little break, and I went to the thing. I've been really impressed with how good some of these comics were. A lot of them. I'm just like, wow. Like, that person's strong, that person's... I don't know how long they've been doing it. I kind of try to talk to them. I know, I admit. It was fun. It was a hot open mic. I was very much digging it. I'm not saying it's going to be the Seattle of the grunge era as far as, in comedy, but it's a pretty big thing. I remember times when there was a point where there was a lot of comics coming out of DC. There's just times where, there are certain things in culture and everything else just kind of goes together that it just kind of makes a lot of really good, whatever it might be, creative endeavor. There's a lot of people, a lot of individuals that are, I'm serious. Every time I go in, I see another one. Like, I might see, have seen some before, and I haven't been out much, but I've been getting a regular kind of a sample, I would say. And some, so I've seen people before, but there's always some people that are new. And the other night I went in there, I was like, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. If you're in the Richmond, Virginia area and you want to go see some comedy anywhere, I would recommend go seeing these people. There's a lot of funny people out there. So that's what I did. Yeah, I had a good time. I was actually had this pretty much recorded last night. And the last part of this, I'd already recorded stuff from before and everything. And it is what it is, people. But I had already recorded last night, and then I was talking to executive producer Tomic. That's his voicemail when you call him. He said, did I mention it? He said no, I hadn't talked about him yet this episode. He said, I did not mention how Tom told me. He's like, you make me sound like a lunatic whenever you do that. And hey, it's not a direct impression, okay? It's not. It's an exaggeration upon reality is what it is. That's what I'm sticking to it. So I had this whole last part that I'm doing now, and I had it recorded, and then I was messing around with stuff with him, and we were talking about sound and doing some other stuff, and I fucked something up, and I killed it. Well, not the part I had recorded, thank God, because I already spent several hours editing that. Not even sound, but just take the pieces out. People don't realize how much. I don't always sound this polished and this together and cohesive in my sentences. Anyways, sometimes I got to stop the recording and look up a word. This isn't always just knowledge, just pouring out of my head as I sit here in the corner of my basement talking to myself. So this happened the other day, in between when I had recorded the first part and then this other part. I was on a group thing on Facebook, and a person in the group was asking me about some of my audio I did back when I was on Anchor app, when I was first starting out. And it's my new friend Tev, T-E-V. And Tev was asking me about the Anchor audio. And then I said, hey, you know what? I said, I'm literally, I'm trying to finish an episode right now. I'll talk about it on the episode if that's what, if you'd like. He said that'd be cool. So initially when I started the podcast, I wanted to have guests on like everybody does. And I was on Anchor and they're like, yeah, use our remote recording thing. You can just use your phone. Actually, the way it's set up, still to this day, it's one thing that sucks about it. You have to literally initiate the interview from a mobile device. You can't do it from a computer. So, but the person that you're talking to, or people, they can be on anything. They can literally be on anything and just talk to you. However, I'm just saying, they can be on their phone, their desktop, using the built-in microphone or whatever. And a lot of times it sounded pretty good. My audio using my iPhone XR was shit. However, I had these guests on. They were nice enough to do it. The people I'd known, comics, Al Goodwin, Mo Alexander, who was on. He's been on twice. Him, some other people. One of my old hockey buddies. Just having fun. But my audio was goddamn terrible. So that's what happened, Tev. That's why it was weird. To explain it on there, and since you listened to the podcast, I thought that was cool. You listened. But either way, hey, thank you. Yeah, but that's what happened. That's why it sounded like shit. If you listen to, actually, my last guest on was Mo Alexander the second time, and his audio was a little screwy because of his setup that he was using on his end. And it wasn't his fault. It was just what was available at the time. So it worked out fine. Tom Handcuff, I say his name straight up because on that one, he pulled a real solid. And definitely earned a producer credit on it. So that's what it was. And it wasn't anything that I'll tell you this. It is really easy to sound decent in the podcast game. It really is. I mean, I sound okay, I think, with what I'm doing. I mean, professional, all these other people. But it's really not that hard to sound decent in the game, especially today. It takes a lot of work to sound really good, if that makes sense. I believe it does. And you have worthwhile content that people want to listen to. You'll get listeners. People will listen to it. However, if you have terrible audio, then that's going to be bad. So don't do that. Go on Zencaster. They're a very good platform for doing that type stuff. Okay, there we go. A little bit of podcast knowledge for you. Did a little comedy, a little podcast. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So this is something I was thinking about because there's always stuff that I have notes for episodes. I was showing executive producer Tom Hancock. That's his voicemail when you call him. I was showing him, like, I had this whole thing of notes that I have, just different things that have happened either recently, stories, things that I've thought of, whatever. So I thought, all right, rather than go on a huge rant about each one of these things and have a 2-hour-long show, because nobody wants to hear me talk for that long. I think collectively, anybody who I've had, such as Wade and some other people out there who've been listening to me for a very long time, right? I don't think they want to hear me that long. I mean, collectively, they've done a good job of hanging in there, but they're not listening to me for 2 hours straight. Nobody wants to do that. Not my wife, not anybody. I don't blame anybody. Not any audience I'm in front of. So these are also things that maybe I wanted to do, but I didn't get to them. It's just whatever. It's a menagerie of stuff. Some of these might be funny. Some of them maybe not. I don't know. All right. So for instance, did you know that Jeff Bezos, who owns a $500 million sailing yacht, I talked about it on a previous episode. And I talked about how Bezos, who had a boat built in the Netherlands, and they were going to take down a historical bridge in Rotterdam in order for him to be able to get it out of the shipyard where it was built. And people were talking about lining up. They had a social media campaign about it. People lining up to throw eggs at it. So just for him being a kind of a dick. So Jeff Bezos has this $500 million yacht. And so what he did, because apparently he is a James Bond villain and he has an assassin helicopter flying girlfriend, he has a $500 million sailing yacht, but there's no helipad on it. So he went out and he bought a $75 million yacht with a helicopter pad on it. This is all I'm saying about this, is that Jeff Bezos needs to pay more taxes. All right. And some people say, well, Jeff Bezos does pay taxes, or Jeff Bezos does do charity work. No, Amazon does charity work. I get that. Amazon Smiles. I've got that. I've got the piddly stuff. But when a man has a $500 million yacht, and what does he buy to go between the two? Quit playing with your digging. Okay. We miss you, Chris Farley. I'm just saying, absolutely sickening. $500 million bucks, and he went out and bought another one for $75 million. Just so his assassin girlfriend. I'm not saying she's an assassin. I don't know. But that sounds like one, doesn't it? Does she wear jumpsuits all the time? You know? He's like his assassin girlfriend, right? Isn't that the way it works in the movies? Speaking of other rich people, did you know? Maybe that's what I should call it. Did you know? Did you know that the SpaceX rocket blew up? Did you guys know about this? Not everybody knows about this. I talked to somebody the other day and they went, what, really? Yes, a giant SpaceX rocket. Some things I read about it said that it was the largest and most powerful ever built. It was estimated that between $2 and $3 billion had been put into this. It had been put into this project, invested into it. And literally, within a matter of seconds, it blew up. And the only thing I'd point out of this is try to find it if you can. Elon Musk, you know what he looked like? The expression on his face looked like he had dropped a large tray of food for his family on like vacation at Disney World. And he knew he was going to have to, go back through the line, but it wasn't going to be that long of a line. And he has plenty of money to pay for more. That's pretty much what the facial expression on him looked like. It was gross. George Santos gets arrested. Yeah, who didn't see this one coming? All I'm just going to say this. The guy is a lecherous asshole. I mean, just as much as any of these other people out here. How do you just get caught lying and lying and lying, and then you just stick around? Like, I don't get how. He's just there. He's just there. Well, I'm elected. Can't fire me for not showing up. It's one of them type jobs, huh? Can't fire me for not showing up. It's almost like he's like that dude in Office Space, you know. I was told I could play my music at the regular volume. And they're like, get out of here, George. And he's like, I know, I'm both duly elected, therefore. The best part of that whole thing was when he came out of the courthouse, the jail or whatever, and he was having that little miniature press conference. And he's sitting there going, oh, yeah, I'm going to prove my innocence. Let's talk about, what about Hunter? And the crowd just started booing him. No. Trust me, you know what? I actually really do. If there's something going on, investigate everybody. I don't give a shit. Let's find out what's going on. But here's the thing. You got busted, man. You got straight up busted. So apparently he turned himself in. This is what I heard. Santos turned himself in. And I just wish it had been where they just went to his house and hadn't told him ahead of time. Because I would just love it if somebody had gone to the door. It's like something out of a movie, you know what I mean? They go to his door, they knock on it. All of a sudden, this woman comes to the door and is like, yes. Oh, you want to see George? Oh, I'm Georgina. I'm his sister. I'll go get him for you. And he runs into the back like Mrs. Doubtfire. George, there's people here to see you. What's that? There's people here to see me. Yeah. I wish he'd have been like that. But no, apparently he wouldn't took himself in. And then he had his little mini press conference. And all he wanted to do, oh, what about Hunter? What about buying this? And people booed him. Yeah. That guy, I don't know how he even exists. Like, he's one of those people that he is a complete psychopath to lie like that and then just stick around. Like when everybody knows what he's been doing. And he says, I'm here. I also wonder, is he going to take that doofy bearded guy that always wears a blue suit for some reason? He's going to take that guy with him to prison? You know, the guy that whenever they try to film Santos walking in and out of the Capitol or something like that, he just gets in the camera smiling like, looking like a poor man's Heavy D or something. You know, Heavy D? Remember the rapper? What was the other guy? I was trying to think of another dude to rip on him about. But anyways. Yeah. Goodbye, Sam. I really hope he gets a lot of time in prison. I hope we all get to witness that. Because maybe it'll just be another piece. All this stuff with all these people coming out of the Republican Party, they're just so full of shit. Crazy Lake, Lindell, the pillow guy. Lindell made a statement, prove my conspiracy theory wrong about the election and I'll pay $5 million. And what happened? A guy did it, and guess what? Lindell's like, I'm not going to pay it. I'm not paying it. He's a, what did he say? Oh, he's an IT guy. He's not a cyber guy. What the fuck ever. He's morons. So, hey, Santos goes, we get rid of one more. There we go. All right, final thoughts on the episode. I don't know how to put a positive spin on anything that happened, such as horrific as what, happened a few days ago in Texas and other things, and just keeps repeating itself over and freaking over again. But the one thing I do want us all to remember is from all of that, yes, it should be teaching us that we need to have just something done about guns. It should teach us all. We should all know that. We should all know that already. But it should be reminding us at least somehow, some way, in a terrible way of making it happen, but it should happen, is to value your friends, your family, your loved ones that much more. Remember that. Value your friends and your family more and more. We should be learning that from this. And we should be fixing it. But we should also be learning from it. Okay? All right, I got to get going now. As always, like, subscribe, download, tell your friends. Don't forget your charities. No Kid Hungry. Many school-age children are in situations where the best meal of the day comes from school. No Kid Hungry helps children with meals when they are away from school, such as weekends and holidays. Wounded Warrior Project. The brave men and women who have served our country deserve the best care we can give them after they return home. Some of them have wounds that are external and or internal that they might need help with, or even just accessible housing. Bestfriends.org is making a difference by helping homeless dogs and cats in shelters be adopted and fostered in more and more numbers. Their goal is to have the entire country no-kill shelters by the year 2025. Of course, anything that has to deal with Ukraine and helping the poor people over there who are literally caught in the middle of this conflict for no reason other than some megalomaniac decided he wanted to start this bullshit. Anything they can do to help them. Now, after the charity, if you got a little chair of me, you can always support the show at John D. Podcom on Venmo. Don't forget Twitter, John D. Podcast, John D. Comedy. Write to me, John D. Podcom at gmail.com. Facebook, John D. Podcast. Executive producers for John D. Podcast are Tom Hancock, that's his voicemail when you call him, and Liz Miller. Thanks to them each for helping make this happen in their own ways. This episode was recorded and produced by yours truly, John D. Miller, in the Amber Tree Media Studio. Don't forget blendjet.com, John D. Pod 12 is your code for 12% off and free shipping. All right, folks. That's been fun. I'm sorry it took so long to get out. It just seemed like there was something going on. I don't know if I'm even going to make this podcast anymore, to be honest with you, but time will tell. Thanks for listening. No, I'll be back. I do it when I can. I do it when I can. All right. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And until next time, later for you.